Hey, good day, guys. I'm so happy to be announcing that we are finishing off with our poetry. Today, we are dealing with an African elegy. Let's quickly have a look at that. We can go through what's important for this poem. I'm going to read it and then come back to you. So, this is our home language class, and it's a poetry, and we are dealing with an African elegy. Let's quickly see what it does and says. An elegy, I think we've discussed what an elegy is. We have an ode that is like a praise song. An elegy is a mournful poem or a mournful song, really. I think we've discussed in terms of what an elegy is. It reminds us of the word eulogy that is used in or at a funeral. So someone would come up and do the eulogy, and this is the deal. Um, okay, let's read. Where are we now? Hold up, sorry about that. Let me just get back there. An African Elegy by Mr. Okri, I think. We are the miracles that God made to taste the bitter fruit of time. We are precious, and one day our suffering will turn into the wonders of the earth. There are things that burn me now, which turn golden when I'm happy. Do you see the mystery of our pain? That we bear poverty and are able to sing and dream sweet songs, sweet things? And that we never curse the air when it is warm, or the fruit when it tastes so good, or the lights that bounce gently on the waters. We bless things, even in our pain, we bless them in silence. That is why our music is so sweet. It makes the air remember there are secret miracles at work that only time will bring forth. I too have heard the dead singing, and they tell me that this life is good. They tell me to love it gently, with fire and always with hope. There is wonder here, and there is surprise. In everything the unseen moves. The ocean is full of songs. The sky is not an enemy. Destiny is our friend. Okay, I'm going to go through the summary and then we can read it again. Okay, so this summary describes the way the people of Africa, in spite of the poverty and suffering they have experienced in the past and continue to experience in the present, are still able to find joy in the small pleasures of life and have hope for the future. It describes the way the people of Africa, in spite of poverty and of suffering they've experienced in the past and continue to experience in the present, are still able to find joy in the small pleasures of life and have hope for the future. Now let's read it again and see if it makes a bit more sense to us. So sorry, let's read. We are the miracles that God made to taste the bitter fruit of time. We are precious, and one day our suffering will turn into the wonders of the earth. There are things that burn me now, which turn golden when I'm happy. Do you see the mystery of our pain? That we bear poverty and are able to sing and dream sweet things? And that we never curse the air when it is warm, or the fruit when it tastes so good, or the lights that bounce gently on the waters. We bless things even in our pain. We bless them in silence. That is why our music is so sweet. It makes the air remember there are secret miracles at work that only time will bring forth. I too have heard the dead singing, and they tell me that this life is good. They tell me to love it gently, with fire, and always with hope. There is wonder here, and there is surprise in everything the unseen moves. The ocean is full of songs. The sky is not an enemy. Destiny is our friend. Thank you. Let's see if we can just enlarge this text to make a bit more sense out of it. I'm sure it will make it easier for you to see from your end. Let's try that a bit more. Okay, maybe that will help us. Okay, let's start with a discussion and let's discuss the title first. An elegy is usually a mournful poem written to mark one's death or someone's death. It may also be a serious, thoughtful poem. The title, therefore, indicates that the poem is about serious matters such as grief and pain. However, the poem is not a traditional elegy because although the poem mentions the suffering and pain in lines 4 and line 8 of Africans, it describes their ability to enjoy life in spite of their troubles and to keep their optimism about life's possibilities. The fact that it is described as an African elegy suggests that Africans have a unique way of dealing with grief and pain. So understand what this is about. It's usually a mournful poem written to mark someone's death. It may also be a series of thoughtful, a serious, thoughtful poem. However, the title therefore indicates that the poem is about serious matters. That's what you want to underline, such as grief and pain. The poem, however, is not a traditional elegy because although the poem mentions the suffering and pain in Africans, it describes the ability. What makes this poem a non-traditional elegy? It's the fact that despite the fact of people's troubles, Africans' troubles, they enjoy life and they keep optimism about life's possibilities. The fact that it is described as an African elegy suggests that Africans have a unique way of dealing with grief and pain. Sorry. This type of poem, type and form, is written in free verse. Free verse, we all know, means that there is no particular verse, rhyming scheme. It's written without a rhyming scheme. There are many forms of examples of enjambment. In other words, enjambment means there's no punctuation in the poem. There's just a run-on lines into the next one. The theme of this poem is as follows. The theme of the poem is the African people's ability to find joy and wonder in life in spite of their difficult circumstances. And I mean, that's so apparent for us. It doesn't matter where we live. We may be living in the most horrific spaces in life. We still have the ability to, in spite of the difficult circumstances, celebrate life's possibilities and mysteries. That's Africa for you. Here we go. So let's talk about the imagery and let's talk about some sound devices. Obviously, when we talk about imagery, we are talking about what images or pictures the poet is creating to express a certain thing, and some images may symbolize something. Now there's also what we call sound devices, and when they refer to sound devices in your exam, you must know that there are 4 sound devices. One would be, that's what you'll be looking for when the moment they refer to sound devices. This is what you're looking for. Number 1, you're looking for assonance, which means it is the repetition of vowels in the same line. Number 2, alliteration, the repetition of consonants in the same line. Number 3, it would be onomatopoeia, and that's when there's an actual sound device. In other words, the word is written the way it sounds, like for instance, grr or boom. And then number 4, it's sibilance. It is the repetition of the S sound. Okay, let's read in stanza 1 and see what they've created for us. In stanza 1, the speaker compares Africans to miracles. I'm going to read that stanza for you so that you know what we are referring to. It says, "We are the miracles that God made to taste the bitter fruit of time. We are precious, and one day our suffering will turn into the wonders of the earth." Great. Here we go. The speaker compares Africans to miracles. This suggests that Africans are in some way chosen by God to bear suffering and then eventually to be celebrated as the wonders of the earth. This metaphor introduces, so we are not like the wonders, we are the wonders of the earth. This metaphor introduces the idea that the African experience of life and the way of dealing with life is unique and astonishing. So when they ask you to talk about the metaphor or to identify it in line 5, it would be the wonders of the earth, and it introduces the idea that the African experience of life and the way of dealing with life is unique and astonishing. Now, stanza 2. describes how some things may burn at one point, yet turn golden at another time. This is another metaphor. These metaphors show the reader that one's attitude can decide the way in which one experiences something. Let's go to the poem again. There are things that burn me now, which turn golden when I'm happy. So you can see it burns him at one space, but it turns golden for him when he's happy. It could have made him worse, could have been the worst experience one day, but literally turned into the most beautiful experience. It turns golden when I'm happy. Do you see the mystery of our pain, that we bear poverty and are able to sing and dream sweet things? That actually aligns with the theme of this particular poem, that despite the challenges we face as Africans, we are able to sing and celebrate life. Now, again, let's talk about these metaphors. Show the reader that one's attitude can decide the way in which one experiences something. Now, he mentions the mystery of our pain in line 8. We read that, which he says, allow Africans to sing. And then in line 10, things even as they are under or as they endure poverty, they are still able to sing. This image of rejoicing in the midst of pain is continued in stanza 3. Let's read stanza 3 and see if it makes any sense to us. And we're going to read 3, I think 2, just to make sure we understand it. There are things that burn me now, which turn golden when I'm happy. Do you see the mystery of our pain, that we bear poverty and are able to sing and dream sweet things, and that we never curse the air when it is warm, or the fruit when it tastes so good, or the light that bounces gently on the waters? We bless things even in our pain. We bless them in silence. Now let's see what it's saying. This image of rejoicing, there we go, in the midst of pain is continued in stanza 3. The speaker points out that Africans do not curse pleasant things like warm air, tasty fruit, or the beauty of light moving on water. Instead, he says they bless these things. Now in stanza 4, the speaker uses personification to describe how the sweet African music makes the air remember. How do we know something is personification? This figure of speech or poetic device is identified by means of when you give human qualities to something that is dead. Okay, so you give human characteristics to something that is dead. So okay, let's see what they did. It makes the air remember. Maybe we should read stanza 4 so that we understand the context in which it is meant. That is why our music is so sweet. It makes the air remember. The question is, can the air remember? No. The moment it says no, it means it is personification. There are secret miracles at work that only time will bring forth. I too have heard the dead singing. I think the dead singing could also be personification, because the dead can't sing. But let's read what the text has to say. Here we go. So in stanza 4, the speaker uses personification to describe what? How sweet African music makes the air remember. He also personifies time, suggesting that time will eventually reveal the secret miracles that are at work. There we go. Let's go back and see how I missed that. Okay, there are secret miracles at work. Can miracles be at work that only time will bring forth? I too have heard the dead singing. I think that's right there. He ends stanza 4 by stating that he has heard the dead singing, and continues this image in stanza 5. He says that the message of the dead is that life is good, and people should live gently, with fire and with hope. In this way, he compares his beliefs to a message, from his dead ancestors. So he says that the message of the dead is that life is good. Let's look at stanza 5. And they tell me that this life is good. They tell me to live it gently, with fire, and always with hope. There is wonder here. Okay. Here we go. He says that the message of the dead is that life is good, and people should live gently, with fire and with hope. In this way, he compares his belief to the message from his dead to a message from his dead ancestors. He uses enjambment to create a smooth flow from the last line of stanza 5 to the final stanza. The last line, line 25, introduces the idea of the wonder to be found in the world around us, and this image is developed in stanza 6. So, in stanza 6, we're going to read this now, and there's surprise in everything of the unseen moves. The ocean is full of songs. The sky is not an enemy. Destiny is our friend. Okay, let's finish this portion. In stanza 6, the speaker describes the unseen that moves in everything around us, which is in line 27. He presents us with two images that emphasize the idea of mystery, surprise, and joy. Mystery, surprise, and joy. The ocean is full of songs. The sky is not an enemy. The last line of the poem uses personification to present us with an image that sums up the message of this poem. Destiny is our friend. Okay, we're almost there. Let's quickly have a look at the next page. Okay, I think I'm missing that. Let's talk about the diction. Diction obviously refers. It's I think it's dictionary is derived from this word diction. It has to do with obviously with the meaning of words and what type of words is he using to bring about a specific expression. So in stanzas 1 and 2 and 3, the speaker uses several words to influence the painful circumstances that many Africans live with. He begins in stanza 1 by mentioning that God has made Africans in order that they experience bitter fruit and suffering in line 4. He speaks in stanza 2 of things that burn him and says that his people bear poverty in line 9. In stanza 3, it's strong diction, strong words that he uses, bitter fruit and suffering. Then he speaks in stanza 2 of things that burn him, and he says that his people bear poverty. In stanza 3, he uses the word curse in line 11, and in line 14, he mentions pain. What have we just discussed? In stanzas 1, 2, and 3, the speaker uses several words to indicate the painful circumstances. Painful circumstances, that is what you can underline. And so you will see the words are bitter fruit and suffering, burn him, and says that his people bear poverty. In stanza 3 uses the word curse, and in line 14 he mentions pain. Throughout the poem, however, positive words outnumber the negative ones, and here we go. In stanza 1, the words miracle, and precious, and the wonders of the earth. Stanza 2 describes how some difficult things turn golden when the speaker is feeling happy, and how even poor people are still able to sing in line 10. Then in stanza 3, he mentions the small pleasures of life and how African people are still able to bless them, turn golden, and then now to bless them, the opposite of the word curse in line 11. The speaker describes the air as warm, the fruit is good, and the bouncing light. Great. Now let's talk about stanza 4. The speaker describes Africa's sweet music and talks of secret work. The stanza ends with a description of how he has heard dead singing. If the speaker continues to use words with pleasant, happy connotations, in stanza 5, he then describes what the dead told him: this life is good. In line 22, we should love it gently. In line 23, and with fire and hope. In line 24, because there's no wonder in the world. Finally, in stanza 6, the speaker uses words to describe his sense of hidden mysteries that we sense but do not understand. He speaks of surprise. We're talking about hidden mysteries, surprise, and the unseen, the natural world around us, the sea and the sky, are full of songs and not an enemy. Destiny. The fate that the future is bringing us is our friend. The fate that the future is bringing us is our friend in line 30. Great. I'm just gonna mention a few of like the tone that he uses in this poem because I think it's important in terms of the fact that it's not your traditional elegy. So, in spite of the fact that the poem is called an elegy and deals with the suffering of the African people, the tone of this poem is what we call optimistic and positive and full of wonder. Optimistic, positive, and full of wonder. In stanza 1, the speaker describes his people as miracles that God made and who are precious and will be wonders of the earth in line 5. In stanza 2, he mentions the mystery of our pain in line 8, which allows people to sing and dream in the midst of suffering. This continues the tone of joyful amazement. Joyful amazement. Then the speaker emphasizes in stanza 3 that they never curse, but that they bless, even in our pain, which reinforces the optimistic, positive tone. The idea of joy and mystery is brought up again in stanza 4, where the speaker mentions there are secret miracles. Fourth, he says he has heard the dead singing. Okay, we're in stanza 6 and we're still talking about diction. In other words, what kind of words is the speaker using? In stanza 5, the speaker develops the positive tone. The singing dead bring a message that is not gloomy but of hope. Life is good and we should enjoy it and be both kind and be patient and never forget our sense of wonder. The final stanza introduces a tone of celebration and of triumph. The speaker says there is surprise and that in everything the unseen moves or directs human existence. In spite of our difficulties, the natural world is full of songs and not an enemy. In fact, far from being hostile, our fate and our future are our friend. You will have a look at this block, which says important points. Here, the whole poem is free verse, no rhyming scheme, and then it gives you what it looks like 5 stanzas of 4 lines, 5 stanzas of 5 lines each. You'll see where the metaphors are. The speaker acknowledges African suffering but maintains that God made Africans as miracles and the wonders of the earth. Now, there are the metaphors, and it will point that out to you. Here's more metaphors. There's your enjambment, and there's a rhetorical question in line 8. Now, in this stanza, the speaker points out that Africans can endure poverty and still find joy in life. This really is just a summary of what we've just read. I would strongly advise that you go through the notes again and then compare it with these. You will have a better grip on this poem. Please do yourself a favor and answer the questions at the bottom in order for you to get a much greater understanding. Thank you so much. That was an African elegy.